There's still a great unsolved mystery locked deep within the brain. We know that information bits sweep through the cortex in such a way that a clear perception emerges. But no one has proved how or where exactly this information gets assembled. Dr. Antonio Damasio is a leading neurologist at the University of Iowa Hospital. While some search for a final assembly point for perception impulses, he's not so sure there is such a place.
You probably don't need to have a place where it all comes together. In fact, there is, I don't think there's any evidence anatomically that an image of sound, like the image of my voice now in your brain, or the visual image that you're now having of the scene, that they ever will coalesce together in the same structure. I don't think there's any evidence for that. I think that what you have evidence for is that they can be temporally synchronized. And there is evidence that there are structures that have signals that hail from those respective images. And therefore there's a linkage, but the linkage is not made at the level of the image itself. So it's not my image of your face together with my image of your voice in the same cortex. I think that those remain separate, but they can be brought online at the same time.
Currents of data feed forward throughout the brain and then loop back, from sensory areas to memory centers and back again. Based on new imaging techniques like functional MRI and PET scan, many researchers now believe that perhaps these parallel networks bind together in synchrony, a kind of harmonic convergence to produce what we call perception.
So I have all this activity going on that is representing you in perception right now. And what my brain is actually storing is not your picture, but rather the mechanisms that are being utilized to create the perception of you. And tomorrow, when people ask me about you, I'm going to go into those mechanisms and I'm going to try to make them do the same thing that they're doing today. And then they're going to generate an image that is not going to be quite the same as seeing you right now, but it's going to have a lot in common with what it is being done today. So what I'm going to have is an attempt at replicating the patterns of activity of today. And during that period, I create an image and I'll bring on lots of other images that pertain to you.
Sensory data constantly stream into the brain. Our brain attaches associations and memories to allow us to make sense of what we see, hear, and touch before us. We perceive the world as a constant, unified place, and that's because the brain acts as a filter. From infancy, we build maps of experience. These maps for seeing, tasting, and touching, for memory and emotion, these maps, when similar from person to person, are what bring individuals together into a society or culture. Our perceptions are often shared, but our brains also make them uniquely our own.
Amazing to think that the physical universe around us is deconstructed, then reconstructed by this inner universe called the brain, and that these perceptions become, in fact, our reality. Long ago, my brain told me to appreciate a hot dog with mustard, but to avoid the relish. Long ago, it had no experience of the seafood delicacies here in Japan. The neural maps in here come to reflect our culture. I've learned to enjoy relish and Japanese seafood. If my brain lacks or reflects certain values, I can add or change some of them. And even if my neural networks don't look like your neural networks, does it really make me that different from you? Is my wiring somehow better or worse than yours?